Much like any good love story, Zen started with just a glance. One day, the Buddha, aka Gautama, held up a flower in front of his followers and commanded their attention. Most of his disciples figured he was just being silly, except for Mahakashyapa, who knew exactly what was going on since he was really good at Buddhism. And so the Buddha turns to him and says,
Hey dude, you're a smart guy, so I'm gonna give you my mind.
And so the Buddha transmitted his mind to Mahakashyapa, who transmitted it to his best peer, and so on and so forth for a long, long time. Eventually, this teaching was passed down to a guy named Bodhidharma, who traveled to China to meet the emperor, but retreated into the mountains because he was too weird. He hung out there for about 15 years, meditating and maybe growing tea with his eyelids, until one day a Chinese scholar came and approached him. Bodhidharma ignored the guy, causing the man to become so frustrated that he cut off his own arm and asked,
Will you please calm my mind, sir?
Finally acknowledging him, Bodhidharma replied,
Show me that mind and I'll calm it.
and the scholar was like,
That's not how that works.
to which the Bodhidharma replied, boom, and dropped the mic. The scholar then realized his true nature and became instantly enlightened. He would eventually receive the mental transmission from Bodhidharma, which would afford him the title of the first patriarch of Zen. 5 patriarchs later comes Huineng, a modest young man who sold firewood for a living. One day while on the job, Huineng overheard a monk reciting the Diamond Sutra and was instantly enlightened because, like his predecessor Bodhidharma, he was really good at Buddhism. So he approached the monk and asked him for directions to the local temple. He went there and became a follower of the 5th patriarch. One time during his stay, the patriarch decided to have a poetry competition. But his followers were too lazy and they didn't want to submit any poems, so they pressured the eldest, Shenshu, into submitting a verse. He wrote,
The body is like a Bodhi tree, the mind's like a bright mirror stand. Be always diligent in rubbing it, don't let it attract any dust.
Huineng heard this verse and thought, psh, I could do better. So he did, by writing, Bodhi's fundamentally without any tree. The bright mirror is also not a stand. Fundamentally, there's not a single thing. Where could any dust be attracted? Huineng's verse was so dope that the 5th patriarch decided to transmit the sacred mind to him. He gave him the bowl and robe that gets passed down from one patriarch to the next, and told him to leave as quickly as he could, for the others would probably be jealous and chase him down. He spent the next 15 years hiding in the mountains boiling vegetables, until he finally decided it was time to disseminate the Dharma. 500 years later, Myoho Sei went from Japan to China because he was bored with Japan's selection of Buddhisms. He came back and started the first Japanese school of Zen. 100 years after that, a guy named Dogen got bored with Eisai's Zen, so he traveled to China to find a more better Zen. When he got there, he tracked down the 13th patriarchy of the Caodong school of Zen, whose position made him about 19 transmissions away from Huineng and about 25 from Bodhidharma. The patriarch transmitted the mind to Dogen, who then returned to Japan to translate these teachings and write an awesome book. Zen flowered in Japan for a while, but things started to go downhill once the different sects got very petty and started fighting each other. In the 1500s, the new emperor Oda was annoyed by the Buddhists and thought it would be fun to suppress them. A lot of the emperors who succeeded him also really liked doing this. Zen continued to get sand kicked in its face until after World War II, when the imperialist government was removed. Finally free, Zen scholars made up for a bunch of lost time by studying super hard and building lots of temples. Zen is still practiced heavily in Japan as well as in China, and is currently taught in college classrooms all around Philadelphia.